Ready? All right. I'd like to call the Tuesday, June 18th, 2019 meeting of the Middleton Board of Selectmen to order. I'd like to remind everybody in the room that this meeting is recorded, both by audio tape and on the TV, so your TV stars for the night. Our first order of business is warrant 1925 and 1926.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On warrant number 1925, which was distributed in the packets the other day from, this is from 2 weeks ago, on the payroll side, $698,337, and on the bills payable side, $946,067. Of that, the usual payroll deductions in the amount of $82,739. Some costs related to the $3,350 related to the environmental assessment at the golf course, part of the pre-acquisition stuff. $11,403 for catch basin cleaning, and then for purchase of power for Meld, $604,638. On this week's warrant number 1926, on payroll we have $1,097,920. Of that, a big piece of that, there's a substantially larger payroll than we usually see. There's a teacher's balloon payment in there for $430,065. And then on bills payable, excuse me, $790,544. The payroll deductions, which are higher because of the teacher's balloon payment, that being at $148,711. About $24,000 for road sweeping and patching and various road maintenance, and then insurance deductions, $309,291. Sarah Wood has reviewed these and requests the board's affirmative action.
Any questions for Andy for this?
Move to accept as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Passed unanimously. Our next agenda item is the minutes. We have minutes of regular meeting of May 28th.
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. That passes unanimously. The town administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things for the board and for the public. I want to acknowledge the work that Kristen Kent has been doing. Kristen is our conservation agent. She recently was awarded a $27,000 grant from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs towards the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. It's a program that the governor rolled out a year or two ago to identify natural hazards and other vulnerabilities facing the town and its infrastructure. So in addition to the MVP grant, the so-called MVP piece of that, she received additional money to fund our update to the hazard mitigation plan, which hasn't been done in a while. So we'll use these funds to retain outside consulting services. So good job by Kristen taking advantage of that program and getting that in place. Belinda Young has been working with First Southwest, or now Hilltop Securities, our financial advisors, on the library bond. We're going to rebond or reissue that bond, renew that bond. There's 8 years left on that, fiscal 20 through 27, and the refunding will save us about $100,000 due to a lower interest rate. So,
Great.
so thanks to Belinda and Hilltop for working on that. That doesn't, because that's excluded, it doesn't help the budget, but it obviously helps the taxpayers. So it doesn't free funds for us to spend elsewhere. So we've talked a lot about the two road projects on North Liberty and on Liberty and Maple, and I've got updates on both of those. Last week we received bids or actually 2 weeks ago now, for the Maple Street, Liberty Street intersection, the redesign of that intersection. The bids came in substantially higher than was estimated, and we only had 2 bids. So a portion of that project is being paid with state money, Complete Streets money, about I think it's $172,000. So We're concerned about going forward because of the impact it would have on our Chapter 90 funding. We'd have to put more Chapter 90 into that project. So we're requesting an extension from Mass DOT. We're supposed to finish the project this year. We're asking for a one-year extension. That will allow us to bid the project in the wintertime and hopefully get better pricing. This is not the ideal time to bid a project like this because everybody's got their work for the year. So we're hopeful of getting the extension and then getting better.
How much over estimate?
I think we were more than 100,000 over, so probably in the order of 20 or 30% higher than estimated. So we opened bids for North Liberty Street, for the North Liberty Street Bridge next week. We're hopeful, but we're a little fearful based on what we saw with Liberty and Maple. We don't really have an option with that project. We're using pretty much all state money for that, so if we need to throw Chapter 90 towards that, it's not as big a deal. And the condition of the bridge is not going to get better. So we're keeping an eye on that. There does seem to be a little bit of shifting. We've got an engineer going out there either tonight or tomorrow to look at that.
He was there tonight.
He was there tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. So depending on what his estimation of the condition is, we may end up closing that sooner than later. It'll certainly be closed during construction, but we'll keep everybody up to date on that. A couple of recreation items. Registrations now being accepted for the summer program. For the over at Howe Manning, and information went home with students before the end of the year and is available on the town's website. And then the Michelle Nowak Fishing Derby and Pancake Breakfast is June 30th from 8 to 11. The Pancake Breakfast is at 11, and the Fishing Derby is after that. Prizes for biggest fish, smallest fish, most fish.
How about no fish? I get
No fish, yeah. Bait is provided, but you gotta bring your own rod and reel. So, there will be information going out online for that, and sign up is online, so. I didn't mention Chief Will's Day. I didn't know if you wanted me to mention that, or if you want to talk about that.
You can mention it twice. I'll probably mention it in new business too, so.
Okay. So Chief Will's is Saturday beginning at 5 o'clock, right? 5 till after dark. And that's down at Natsu Way at the Emily Marr Park. And that's what I've got for updates.
Any questions? None? All right, we'll go on to our first agenda item. It is a vote to approve the 9th annual Coast to the Cure bike ride to benefit neurofibromatosis Northeast on Saturday, September 14th, 2019, affecting Middleton streets. The affected Middleton streets are East Street, Maple Street, Liberty Street, Mill Street, Peabody Street, School, and Essex Streets. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the 9th annual Coast to the Cure bike ride to benefit neurofibromatosis Northeast, which will be happening on Saturday, September 14th. Also with the caveat that streets are not spray painted with route markers.
Okay, I have that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have none. It passes unanimously. Well, we look forward to seeing a lot of bikes come through town. It's always fun to sit around when you see them go by. Our next agenda item is an application for a common victual license for Bella K LLC, DBA Bella Vella, located at 119 South Main Street, South Middleton, by Darlene Vella. Oh, hi.
Come
What?
on up.
So, believe it or not, there are some people that actually watch this show. So in addition to it, you can introduce yourself, tell us a little about your business, tell us what you do, where you're located. It's almost like a little commercial.
Okay, well, I'm Darlene Vella, and we'll be opening up on 119th, well, hopefully open up on 119th South Main Street. It's a bakery. We'll have coffee, bagels, homemade cookies, cakes, cupcakes.
And where is this located for folks at home? I
At
know
119
but-
South Main Street in Middleton.
So that's in the,
The-
Corner of,
The,
yeah, trying to have, in the corner of Meadow and 114.
corner of Meadow and 114.
Great.
Do you want to tell us a little about yourself, what your background or something? Like I said, people like to know.
Oh, so
who-
we've been well, I've been open since 2012, but we've been online. So this is our first storefront. So we're Bonds winner, 6 years in a row, best cookies, the North Shore Magazine. And we used to ship and deliver and cater, but now we're going to be opening, hopefully, on that location.
Always helps when you have a chubby chairman, when you start saying cookies. You know?
When do
Well-
you anticipate, should this be approved, when would you anticipate opening your doors and operating?
Tomorrow morning. I said, otherwise I'll be dropping off everything I baked here to eat.
Well, that gives us an incentive.
No, yeah.
That was the wrong thing to say.
Well,
this
either
for.
way,
Dropping off everywhere but cars.
Yeah, exactly.
that depends, no.
Any questions?
Has a copy of the lease been provided?
Yes, I don't think we have it with us tonight, but yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
no, I don't.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a common victular license for Bella K LLC doing business as Bella Vella, located at 119 South Main Street, Middleton, and represented here by owner Darlene Vella.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Well, this will not be the last time you'll see these faces, because,
What
Probably
will
tomorrow.
be your hours of operation for the public?
Probably 7 to 2, roughly.
Okay.
and Andy, what does she have to do for here? Does she have to sign this? She wants to open tomorrow morning, what do we?
We'll look the other way in the morning, and we'll have the paperwork for you later in the day.
Give us a call, yeah.
I can swing by. All right.
So will you do all your preparing there, or still where you did prior to here?
Yeah, I'll prep I have a residential kitchen licensed.
So it is more or less just the storefront?
Open every day,
Except Sundays right now.
except Sunday?
Yeah,
So we gotta get our cookie fixed by 2 o'clock on Saturday is what
exactly.
Good to know.
All right,
I'm close by, it'll be easy.
yeah. Well, congratulations,
Yeah,
good
good
luck,
luck.
welcome to Middleton.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is an application, everybody's having a party. Application for a one-day liquor license for Marvin Windows for the building and parking lot located at 239 South Main Street by Roseanne Palazzola, manager of the North Shore Window Solutions LLC, DBA Marvin Design Gallery. This event is scheduled for June 20th if approved, 4 to 7. And who's here from? Oh, there you are.
Thank you. Just for the record, she didn't bring them in before.
Before, right, yeah.
Before the vote.
We didn't see them before.
You bring in windows?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, maybe a door, but no windows.
Yeah. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, how are you?
All right, tell us a little about what you're going to do.
Okay, basically, every so often, we do events for our contractor customers to bring them into the showroom to show them new products. And Marvin is now going through a rebranding, so we want to bring our contractor customers in and basically feed them, give them some beer, talk to them about the new products that are coming out and the new brands, and just kind of, network a little bit with them, and that's basically it. We thought it would be a nice idea to get True North Brewery wants to bring their old-fashioned beer truck, and we were going to put it right in front of our doorway so nobody else can get in. We have another entrance on the side where the partygoers can come in too. But we were going to block off the front, and we were told that we needed a liquor license to do that. There's probably going to be about 35 people maybe, and it's invitation only. We've extended the invitation. We know who's coming. It's not a free-for-all. So that's basically why I'm here.
Any questions?
Is there anybody going to be checking the invitation so nobody kind of sneaks into?
Yes, I check everybody in. Everybody, needs to give me a business card, so I make sure who they are, and that gets put into a raffle. It also gives us their contact information. But our salesmen know these guys, so.
Great.
I mean, it's a small lot, so I know it's at 4 to 7, but how about parking as far as if you know, and did you have to talk to the bank or anything?
I talked to Harold next door at Circle Furniture, and he says, no problem, if there's any spillover, we can go across.
And it's
over
after
there."
hours for them, I know, over there anyway, so.
Great. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant application for a one-day liquor license for Marvin Windows for the building and parking lot located at 239 South Main Street by Roseanne Palazzola, manager of North Shore Window Solutions LLC, DBA Marvin Design Gallery, on an event taking place June 20th, 2019, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And have a good event. You sell some windows.
If anybody wants to stop in for a beer.
Got to be on the list. though.
Invite only.
Now, my wife married handsome, not handy.
Oh, I was going to make a better joke, but I'll just let that one go.
Okay. Our next agenda item is a public hearing, a request from Attorney Jill Mann for a new license for a restaurant all-alcohol liquor license located at 189 South Main Street, Middleton, on behalf of Serenity Catering Corp., DBA Maggie's Farm, manager Laura Balistraki. I'm sorry, Laura, am I?
Okay, Balistraci.
Balistrasi,
It's the
yeah.
hard one.
Good evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of Serenity Catering Corp., the owner and operator of Maggie's Farm. As I had described in the application, Maggie's Farm has elected to relocate to 189 South Main Street. So it's going to be a brand-new building, and it will have, obviously additional parking. They have just simply outgrown their space at 189 where they are presently. It's a fine location. Good luck to Bella Vella, that's wonderful. So this location, 189 South Main Street, is directly next to my office. So there's that lot next door to my office. That's where the building is going to go. In order for us to actually file for site plan approval and go forward with the restaurant design and actually incur those costs, we need to ensure that there is a liquor license available and issued to this particular restaurant owner. It's the same exact owner as Maggie's. The reason why we aren't applying simply for a transfer, which is the normal course, is that particular license belongs to that property. That really is to protect that property so that when and if a company were to transition, move, not do well, then there's not the burden of having an issue with the license itself. It goes with that property. That's one of the terms of its lease. This particular property and this particular license do not go with the property. It will go now with the petitioner because they will own the condominium that will be this restaurant. We included in your package, all the required documents. We included the Corey report for Mr. McDonough, who's the principal. We included Laura as Corey. I realize they're all current participants, but you have to do the same exact thing every time you file. We included Ms. Belstrasi's resume. We included Mr. McDonough's financial information to attest to the fact that he financially is capable of actually undertaking the work necessary to create the restaurant. We included a copy of the lease because Mr. McDonough is actually partnering with another person to own the physical property, but the license and the restaurant are just all Mr. McDonough, not Maggie's Farm LLC, which is the real estate owner. So in your package, you did receive the purchase and sale agreement from Gem Development, which is the owner of that particular lot, to Maggie's LLC. And then you also received a copy of the lease from Maggie's LLC that will be the owner to Serenity Catering Corp. Again, a requirement of the application process. The hours of operation will be identical. The issues relative to parking will be minimized, if not eliminated, because we're going to provide somewhere in the vicinity of 100 to 105 parking spaces.
How many are there currently at?
68 to 69, it depends how you count them.
So how many will be at the new location?
100 to 105.
And obviously, we're not the board that you're going to go for
Overseer.
site plan approval, but is this expected to be a larger?
Nope. It'll be, it's pretty much, it's a little teeny bit bigger,
but it's not too much bigger.
So you probably get where I'm going on this,
Yeah.
which is.
Oh, trust me when I tell you, I have an office next door. The last thing I need is a parking issue. So no, we're providing far more than we need,
Okay.
but enough to make me comfortable, which really is what was required. I need to be comfortable. So when we looked at what Maggie's has currently, we figured, okay, if there's 69 parking spaces, believe it or not, we counted the number of employees that park on Meadow, and the most that really are probably necessary are about 80. So we figured, okay, we've got to get more. So I figured 20 to 25 more than what they currently even provide. And that's, that was still assuming you had Dr. Bebron's office, you had Soul Bean, which generates a very large volume of traffic. They're a great business and they're very active. So at this particular location, it'll be the only, if you will, off-hour enterprise.
So the 20 cars that pull out that just turn around in the parking lot will stay for a change.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal. Listen, you wish everybody success, and you're thrilled when you see this happen, right? You're thrilled when you know a business has succeeded in town and actually been able to kind of burst at the seams a bit. So, yeah, we definitely want to capture the traffic that maybe we're having issues with. We would very much like that, yeah.
So is it the same number of seats?
It's, I think there are 15 more seats, there are a few more seats,
Okay.
absolutely.
And when does the existing lease at the current location expire? So when do they have to be at the new location?
Right, in 2000, I think it's October 2021. I think it's 2021. Pretty right? 18 more months, yeah. That's why, the process is a fairly lengthy one, believe
Yeah,
it
well,
or not. We have just started, like you saw in your package, you saw that we had the plans. Those are just, this has not been percolating for a very long period of time. So we actually just did those initial style plans. The footprint of the building may reduce somewhat, to be honest with you. That's the maximum it would ever be. And we still have to go through the full design. We have to get our site plan done. We're doing perk tests on Tuesday of next week. There's a lot of work. So before we're probably even going to be before the Board of Appeals. This is June, right? July, August, September maybe at best. And then once you get out of that, you still have to do all the construction documents and then you have to build. So we have a fair amount of time in front of us.
So if you had to have your crystal ball out, when would you expect that Serenity would be able to open the doors and?
See, they have to do the interior build out. It's 12 to 18 months from the day
So-
you finish and you get your approval is normal.
So the reason why I'm asking this is that we have more unused full liquor licenses than we have requests now. And I completely understand why coming here asking for a liquor license has to happen before you move for due diligence, because it'd be difficult to build a restaurant without an understanding that you'll be eligible for a license. So I guess one question I have, and if maybe the attorneys on the board or you as the attorney could answer the question, is this will actually technically be two licenses under the same entity.
Yes.
Understanding why you can't take that license with you. And secondly, is there a willingness to have a certain type of time frame put on this? I'll use the example, let's say you go to the Board of Appeals, the Board of Appeals says yes, but there's a decision to delay construction for 2 years. Are we going to be looking at a license being held kind of like a pocket license for 2 years?
First, we have to come back to you. So when you see a pocket license without effect, I have to come back. So that's what you would end up doing, is you call me back. With regard to delays, I, as the owner, personally would not be building this building without it already a captured tenant. I can't, that's just not my business to do, and to put myself at that kind of a risk. So that's one of the conditions for me, is that the liquor license actually be issued. And as far as the pocket aspect, I would never allow it to go 2 years, because if it were to go 2 years, I would find something else to go in there, or I would stop.
So would you be willing to have a time frame placed on that?
You really can't do that with a license, so when you grant the pocket license, right, you pay for the 1 year. So you would have to give me so many various conditions. Like, I'd be willing to come back and update you every time because of the renewal options, of course I would. So, you know, when it,
Because I'm not so concerned, because we have other licenses
Available,
available
yeah.
based on our population, and we're not at that point where we would see another big slug of licenses, but, you know.
see, my bank's gonna lend based on the fact that I get this.
Oh, and
And
I
that's why
completely
when
understand
it
why you're
comes
here
to,
now.
are you able to do a time limit? What I'm able to do is come back and update. So if the board says to me, the bank's gonna have the same issue. If the board says to me, Jill, you've been outstanding for a year, you haven't got site plan approval, you don't have construction documents in place, what are you doing? Then at that point, I have to answer to you and to my bank. So then I would come back. So I would hate to have a time frame that requires an automatic termination. I would rather have the obligation to come back and inform you, because you don't want to tie up liquor
I mean, you
licenses
surely
if
have a time frame
business.
of the existing, at least Serenity has a time frame of when the existing
Oh, yeah.
lease is up.
There's also a little time frame in that in December, we have to renew.
That's my point. I have to come, no
Yeah.
matter what,
So
we come
the
back.
first one's a six-month
Okay.
review.
So, but
That's really
and
my
I
only
would come
question.
back.
And I,
Yeah,
again,
no,
Jill, I understand completely why you're here before site plan approval or any of that.
Yeah.
It-
But we would come back.
Does it create any issues at the ABCC, the fact that, you know, same entity, same business, two locations in the same town?
You can't do that with a package store, but you can with a liquor license, an on-premises restaurant. So there is a difference. So if I were here before you with a request to do an off-premises, yes, I cannot within the same town. And then, you know how it works, even in Massachusetts now, there was 3, now it's 5, isn't
Mm-hmm.
going to 8. So, you know, there's a big difference with regard to the package store component,
Yep.
but not restaurants.
Any other questions from the board?
Are you using your parking spots too?
Well, the whole thing will be combined. That's the beauty of this particular place, because if you drive by my place of business, right, and you drive by at 5 o'clock, you'll notice it's my car, right?
Right.
And my car and the race car.
Parked farthest away from the door, I've
Do you know
noticed.
why?
So you can walk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
I have to get those steps, 45 in.
I'd be right next to the door.
You and my husband.
You'll be
But,
driving into the building.
Yeah. Hey, look, I've heard some people doing that lately. I'm hoping not. So, yeah, it's a big combined lot, so we get to cross-share.
Any other questions from the board?
Oh.
No, I just want to say, there's people in the audience, and I'm not positive on if you're here for this item or other items, so I just want to make sure if anybody wants to speak.
believe us.
You got a butter there, too.
All right, I'd just like to, any questions? You address them to us, and even if you have a question for her,
Sure.
we'll ask. And
I'm in a butter, and
identify yourself and where you live.
sure, Dan Greek, 185 South Main Street, the residence and business right next door. I am all for it. Is there going to be any stipulation on outside seating, outside congregation areas?
So, right now, I would expect if there was gonna be outside seating, the license would have to affirmatively reflect that.
Okay.
And as I understand, the license that's before us does not have any outside seating.
Does have a little bit on
It does?
Yes, it's a little outdoor
I
area.
missed that. So I guess there's two bites of the apple for that. Yes, you are correct. So technically, there's two bites of the apple for that. A, as the licensing authority on the license, and B,
So if the license
Before the
is
site
granted, it's
plan.
going to come with outside seating if, the way you approve it?
as I see it,
How many seats are outside?
I mean, at this time, they're very small. We don't know, if that'll even.
And will there be a time limit, like after 8 o'clock, no outside seating,
Well, that's,
Do you want me to? I can-
go ahead. What do you-
So, I mean, it's Middleton, after 8 o'clock, you can't sit outside. You can't, with bugs, you really can't. But the purpose of the outside seating, yeah, there'll be some people who'll go out there. I mean, it would be, at this point,
Is there a roof over it?
no,
Okay, so it's a deck.
yeah, just like literally a patio.
how big is it proposed to be?
It's like 6 feet by, I think 15 feet or 25 feet. I can't remember the exact dimensions. I wrote it down.
On the sides, facing this gentleman on the side of the
Yeah, on the
opposite.
same side. But a little behind, so he parks his trucks and his boat right here.
It's showing
Yeah.
what would probably be like 6 two-tops.
Yeah, it's small. It's a small, right now, it's a small area. I mean, we would never propose to put a very large area out initially, because you don't know, Middleton doesn't seem to have a big outdoor population with regard to that.
I have a 5-year-old, so I just,
No, not that it was outdoor seating, but I remember when Serenity came before us originally for their license, and I remember when we asked them for serving time, I think Mr. McDonough is the name?
Yeah, Mark, yep.
Mark was used to Salem and Gloucester, where he asked for I think a last call at 12:30, something like that, and we kind of laughed because in Middleton,
they roll up the sidewalks.
they roll
No,
up the sidewalks at 9, and then when Maggie's came back in for a renewal for some changes or something, I remember they actually scaled back their hours, and many times I've pulled on the door and it's been locked, or...
The hours wouldn't even be a concern to me. That's not, it's just more, any congregating outside, whether it be smoking area, outside seating, any type of outside noise, after 8.
So the outside serving area would not be able to be a smoking area?
No, I understand that, but it's just any type of, you see it at like Pickering Wharf in Salem, people, outside, talking outside. You see it everywhere, and
And I'm assuming by this plan, this is up against, where it's proposed is butted up against the property line.
Yeah, so Mr. Greeky's property is that, the cash for gold,
Right.
you know where it
Sound
is,
safe.
right? Sound City.
Yeah.
It's
Sound
right
safe.
there.
Yeah.
Does this have to go before the planning board, or have you? And if so,
No, zoning board for the site plan approval, yeah.
And is that the only,
Yeah, it's
Thing.
only site plan approval.
Well, and then you'd have to go before commercial and,
Oh, gosh, yeah. So I have to go before the design review board, which is Paul Richardson's board, and then I go before the, I shouldn't say that. It's the design review board that actually
Oh,
looks at all the.
Richardson's on.
I know, but thank you, it's wrong to say it. I mean, so's Bob. So, you have to go before them, and then you have to go before the planning board for recommendation, and then you go to the Board of Appeals for site plan approval. I mean, honestly, it's a by right use to develop the property in this particular function. That's what it is, because it's zoned for
so
that
I think
use.
we
But
only have
we do to
one
do those.
other restaurant in town that actually has, as part of their license, exterior seating, and I don't think it's ever been used, which is, I think,
Teresa's.
Teresa's.
you occasionally see someone sitting.
During the
Yeah.
day, they definitely do, because people like to go and mill about it in the daytime. That's usually what it is when the
and the
sun's
old
still
Soul
up.
Bean, well, it wasn't a
Oh,
liquor.
Soul Bean has it too, yeah, people love it for lunch, yeah.
So,
And then so does Starbucks.
Are you subject to any public hearing in regards to any of those other, the zone, any other boards you mentioned outside of this?
I mean, no, I have to get my septic system approved by Board of Health. Yeah.
Zoning board, I particular was what I was.
Oh, no.
This is it.
If we have music, live music, you have to get the permit from you, and you have to get the special permit from the Board of Appeals. I assume we'll probably do that, because now we'll have TVs, believe it or not, are considered entertainment, and you have to get a license for them.
separate license for.
Yeah, so we will do that, but that was, not our big concern. I mean, that's just the,
So,
Yeah, it's
looking
all
at
indoors.
your license application, you have an hours of operation that you're proposing, I assume would be the same as your current hours of operation?
yeah, identical, right? They're what, 11 you serve?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, this is Laura Bell, you should
Yeah.
have to
we-
introduce yourself.
Laura Ballastraci, General Manager at Maggie's. So we do last call fairly early. It is at 11:30 on most nights, but can guarantee you that does not happen almost any night, except for maybe a Saturday or Friday. We kind of lock up once the kitchen closes at 10 p.m., kind of rolls right up, and we kind of tone down a little bit.
Great. Is there anybody else that wants to say?
Want me to go next? I know Jill Mann, she knows what she's doing, but.
Again, I'm just gonna ask you-
Jill Blaze, sorry, 10
Yeah.
Park Ave.
Okay, great.
How can you even consider alcohol license within 100 feet? I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. Is it 100 feet? Because I didn't look at the plan. That building's going to be within 100 feet of 4 residential properties. How, I don't even know any place in the town of Middleton that's even done that. How can you even do that to
I think the
people?
current Maggie's is within 100 feet of,
No, Maggie's was Daniel Fuller had an alcohol license. Where did they?
It was a separate license, though.
Okay, no, but they had alcohol license. When when Brigadoon was done, then people knew that Fuller Pond was, the restaurant was there with alcohol license. That's what the point
So
is.
you have the same thing with
What, where?
Teresa's is.
Teresa's is no, where's the residential home next to Teresa?
Bill Mugford out in front of it.
Billy Mugford, who sold him the property, which I know more than anything else, when you sell, that's a different circumstance altogether. Got any other ones? Because I can't think of none. Well, beyond that, it's actually being considered. I can't believe that it's being considered that these people are gonna listen to that music, 4 houses within 100 feet. I don't know if, am I wrong in that number? Because I don't want to, I'm assuming it's 100 feet because I know where the lot is. That you're gonna consider letting music and outside seating and an alcohol license next to them houses, devaluing them that much? He already got hit by the storage, and now you're gonna hit him with that?
again, it's a commercial.
I know it's
And
commercial.
what I
I
like
just
to
didn't
say.
know the alcohol license was that easy, that it's being considered that easy.
I just remember that one of the things that people forget is where Maggie's is now, when it was Daniel Fuller, it was proposed to be a funeral parlor. And the neighbors said the traffic was too much. We don't want it, how can you, much like you, how can you propose a funeral parlor this close to our, they end up with a restaurant. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. It's a commercial lot. You could
Commercial
have.
lot. I have no problem with the commercial lot, we all know that. The problem, the zoning, if you had a problem with the zoning, you would have spoke up then. The alcohol license I got a problem with. I would not believe that's possible, but if it's possible, I know Jill's the one to get it done, it's gonna be done. I don't agree with it, and I don't think any of the butters agree with it. And it's alcohol license, it's not, Jill has the right to develop that, whatever she wants to put there. I think the alcohol license, you're really stepping on you're devaluing them houses. I'm not about to go get an attorney and fight it, but how can that not devalue them piece of property that much?
Again, I don't want to get into an argument, but let me give you another example. Is all the commercial properties down for, what's it called, Log Bridge Road. We put the adult entertainment district.
Exactly.
And what everybody said, you just devalued our property. You know how many properties got devalued? None.
Exactly.
And in Middleton, if you think your property is going to be devalued, I mean, unless they put a pig farm or a smokestack next to you, I don't know that you're really, the devalue happens.
You don't think, you want to listen to that? You don't think that's going to devalue? All right, I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to,
So
I
I will
disagree
state,
with
though,
it. And
for-
I'd like to know where there's alcohol license next to residential. I think that would be the issue I'd argue if I was
There's actually,
taking to court.
there's also a alcohol license at
Rizzo's.
Captain's Pizza. There's an alcohol license at Rizzo. There's an
And they got
alcohol
the houses
license.
out front, I'll give you that.
There's a alcohol license at China Villa that is within probably a little bit further than that.
China Villa's been there before you were in town, so that's different. That alcohol license was standard. No, actually, it didn't have one back then. That's when it was breakfast. But a lot of them exist, and you knew it was something there. No one knew that this was gonna happen there.
So,
Not with the
on
alcohol
the first concern of sound and music, I will tell you, as Attorney Mann stated, nothing in this application has to do with entertainment and music. That will have to be a separate license where the owners will have to come back and ask for, and I will tell you, I would never support outside music there being that close to the property line. That wouldn't be appropriate, nor do I think it would be conducive to the use of that property as well as the abutters.
I'm gonna let you go. I just want, one question. Who sent this letter? Town sent this up? Jill sent this? Who typed this up?
So under the law of a formal hearing, state requires that abutters within a certain distance must be notified by,
Who actually did the typing?
well, it actually gets
Because
submitted.
this was misunderstood as Jill's coming in for Maggie Farm by the other neighbors.
Well, it is Maggie's Farm.
I know, but if you listen to it, Jill Mann, we know, represents a lot of different people in town. And it seemed like it was going in for Maggie's Farm for redoing the alcohol license. I happen to know, that's why two neighbors said, no, it was Maggie's farm, and I come to find out it wasn't, it was this lot. So, just so you know, that wasn't too clear.
I can understand what you're saying.
It's very easy.
It would be, they wouldn't be abutters at the other restaurant, so I don't know how they would think they would get a notice.
Yeah, and that's why I said, why would a company be certified if it wasn't that piece of property?
Right.
So there'd be some more disconnect if that was.
I just want to hear from all the
I
other
was going to tell
parties.
you about the, okay.
Hi,
Hi,
just identify yourself and tell me where you
my
live.
name's Vanessa Hurley. I'm the owner of 16 Park Avenue.
I'm Johnny Marciano. Live in the same place.
Great.
So our issue is just that we were kind of blindsided by the whole thing. We bought our property. We had no idea that there was any building at all going. We're not against it. I mean, luckily, we wish we could be against it, but it's just with the storage unit, they cut down all of our trees. We have zero privacy. So you can imagine workers, that's all they see all day. That's all they hear all morning. They're there till like 3 in the morning sometimes. Like, we're very good about it. The thing is there's trees like dividing us. So now that is my backyard. Now this will be the side of my house. My thing is, I know that we're not going to win. You guys are going to build this either way. Can you at
Okay,
least?
first of all, we're not building, I haven't built a thing. You wouldn't trust me to build anything.
Yeah.
We hear applications, we approve it, we don't approve it. It's based on zoning, it's based on what's good for the town, but again, we don't make, I know that the last gentleman thinks for some reason that, we've made up our minds or whatever, but that's why I'm heavy hearing, because so that everybody can
But if I could add to
speak.
that, this is, I think it's important for you to understand that there's two items before the town. This item is the actual liquor license. The entity will be back again for 2 more licenses before us. A common vic license, which is the ability to serve food, and then if they choose an entertainment license. The current facility, where it's located now, has 3 licenses. A alcohol license, all alcohol license, a entertainment license for their ability to, they have musicians there occasionally, and then a 3rd license to actually cook, serve, prepare, and sell food. So they'll be back to us 2 more times for that. Most importantly, the actual facility being built, approval for that, this board has no jurisdiction over that.
Okay.
The only jurisdiction we actually have, and it's really not jurisdiction, is this board actually appoints the members to the Board of Appeals. It actually will be the entity that will be hearing the zoning approval for this. It's a use approval, not actually a zoning change approval. So I just, and maybe it's semantics, this isn't a foregone conclusion that the property will look like it is, or even be located in the exact size, whatever. We asked the questions about parking. Attorney Mann could have said, I have no idea, and we have no plans for parking right now because we have no ability in our licensing to state there must be this much parking, there must be this. Secondly, the licensing that we approve, we're the first step in the process. The real licensing entity is the state through the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission, which is through the state treasurer's office. And many times when towns put in place egregious, or what is perceived by the owner as egregious restrictions, the state is the final arbiter on that. Not saying that the state would definitely side with us or the state would definitely oppose us in that position. It's really a case-by-case basis. So I get your concern about being in a butter. I want you to know that you have multiple bites of this apple. The big bite is through the Board of Appeals. You will also be notified as an abutter on that for the actual building that is being proposed, which is not actually Maggie's Farm. What I've been told this evening, it's a different entity that will actually own that. So you'll have that ability. You'll have the ability, should they come before us for a entertainment license, especially to your point on, and the other gentleman's point on music. I will tell you, as someone that would have a vote on the entertainment license, I will never support an outside music entertainment license there, or the ability to have that. So, and then just one last point. I know you stated the construction that is going on around you. You stated it's been happening off hours, early morning. If that happens, I want you to immediately, if it happens in the off hours, early morning, call a police station.
They did it for a year straight.
Okay, the second thing I need you to do is contact the building commissioner's office in the morning, and feel free to call our town administrator office in the morning, because they are operating under licensing requirements that they cannot have construction operated at a certain time frame. So if that, and I know that project is just about done, but if that continues, you have every right as an abutter to make that claim, and our building commissioner and town administrator's office will absolutely follow up on that.
Okay.
So, sorry, I know that was kind of a long-winded, but,
Yeah.
The other thing is, I might suggest, and I've found this to be helpful, and again, I'm not giving you advice, is that you might want to talk to the people that are building the building. It is a commercial lot, so even if this wasn't going, something will go there at some point. But you might want to talk to them and say, hey, listen, we would like to see if you can keep a buffer, or see if you can keep trees. I find that most builders are very, they want to keep the neighbors happy. So
like,
if
we lost all our privacy.
We have
everything.
zero privacy right now in the back, so we just
Well,
don't
that's
want to lose.
why I'm suggesting, if you called people and said, listen, hey, you want to, we would really like if you could put up a group of trees, or put up bushes or something like that. I'm not telling you they will do it, won't do it, but if you don't ask, I found that nobody ever says, yes, so, but I understand perfectly, and that's the problem. Nobody told you, I understand, when you bought the property, that the next door property was commercial. Nobody told you, what they could do or whatever. I understand that, but unfortunately, that's the way zoning works. If the next door neighbor, if it's zoned for a pig farm, they can put a pig farm in. If it's zoned for whatever, they can put it in. But I find that neighbors, everybody wants to keep the neighborhood happy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key
I'm
of it. So-
against liquor license as well. Like, we got kids. It's like, I go to Maggie's regular, and it's loud outside just in the parking lot, so I just want to state that I'm against the liquor license.
Okay.
Yeah, and just privacy too. I mean, there has to be
Like,
some.
the parking's gonna be right up to me. They're probably gonna have dumpsters with rats probably coming into my neighborhood. Like,
It's just gonna
I'm fully
ruin the
against it.
neighborhood. I mean, it's not just us, even people down the street. It's just gonna affect all of us. I mean, even my neighbors, they see the storage unit. They don't like it. It's not affecting their yard, but they don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins what Middleton is. We wouldn't have moved here.
Our selling point on our house was all woods, and it's all gone.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem with zoning, is that, I mean, I have woods behind my house, but I don't own it. And so, at some point, instead of looking at woods, I could be looking at 35 houses.
Yeah.
But that's that's what when you buy.
I'm also against a bar. I like waking up my kids all hours of the night.
Yeah,
so we've had experiences in the past, and I'll give you an example of the owner of the establishment trying to be a good neighbor, where we'll readily admit that there was a parking issue at that facility where Maggie's is located right now. That's why I asked about parking during this discussion. While we're not the authority to mandate what parking will be, that'll happen through the site plan approval process. But the owners, and at the time, general manager of Maggie's before us, and we listened to neighbors say, hey, by the way, the dumpster is being picked up at 3:30 in the morning, which was against the rules of the original approval for that building being redeveloped. We immediately clamped down, and Maggie's, as the operator, clamped down, and that problem was fixed. We continued to police it. So I will tell you that approval of a liquor license, or even a site plan approval, those restrictions stay through the life of that property and through the life of that license. So this is the first bite of the apple for the abutters here, and you as direct abutters. So again, and to the chairman's point, right behind you is the general manager. Right next to her is the attorney that is the property owner. I would highly recommend that you spend some time talking with them as an abutter, as a neighbor, but also as somebody that understands that this is a business that's in town that is looking to relocate and within the zoning requirements can be there. See what can be done, whether it's on screening. Let it be known what your position is on sound when they come back here if they come back here for an entertainment license. I can pretty much guarantee what questions I'm going to ask at that time, and restrictions I'm going to want to have, and not just outdoor restrictions, but that's why I asked questions, how much bigger this is going to be. I didn't know if this was going to be a much bigger facility that would have more entertainment there than it does now. But I completely understand. I own a home in Middleton that diagonally, sight line across from me is spot zone two industrial lots, and everything around it is residential. And I know what could potentially be there. That was part of the decision I made when I bought that and the negotiations I made. But I also realize that if those properties ever get developed, it's the zoning. And it's a touchy topic in this town. I completely understand. It's a touchy topic in every town, zoning. And this is the balance of ensuring that properties are zoned correctly, that owners of the properties are allowed to do what they can, but abutters are protected as well. So I think you have some opportunity to be heard, not just in this board, but other boards. The Industrial Design Review Committee, which she mentioned that Paul Richardson's the chairman of, that is going to have certain requirements on landscaping and abutting and screening and green space. That's why when you drive down 114, you don't see pavement right up to the road. That's why 114 in Middleton looks much different than 114 in Danvers. So you have opportunities to be heard there. And I know that our Assistant Town Administrator gave you her card. Please use them as a resource on what do these committees do, what is our opportunity to be heard, what is a public hearing, because quite honestly, all of these committees, this committee and others, they're made up of residents like yourself, taxpayers like yourself, that are volunteering their time to try to make decisions that are in the best interests of the taxpayers, property owners, abutters.
Thank you. Can we just be notified as well? Like, we weren't notified about this, our neighbor.
Oh, okay, so,
Give your name, we'll make sure you
Yeah.
get
Sure, because I can show you guys you would understand
Sure.
that we are
There's like
affected
literally like a
most.
pie of land that's in between, like literally like a pie.
I understand. No,
in between,
It's
so
the very
pretty much direct
slightest.
abutters.
We're not gonna split hairs. We
Technically,
want you to be
Thank you.
knowledgeable on what's going on, so we're actually.
and we will make sure, and again, other committees as well, you may or may not be as a non-direct abutter,
It's still like less
communicated,
than
but
100 feet.
Yeah,
I
we'll
fully
make sure.
expect after this evening that there will be more neighboring residents that will be attuned to this.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that hasn't spoken that I don't know if everybody, okay.
And what number of Park Ave were you again?
16.
16, thanks.
So pursuant to the requirements, we get the abutters list, and they aren't included in that one, because it's only direct abutters. They abut the storage unit, there's a swath of land, it is pie shape, I mean, it goes like that. Yeah, so that's why, well, I just didn't want you to think we didn't notify
No,
somebody.
I understand
But they get-
who gets noticed.
They get the notice for, the Board of Appeals is 300 feet, they'll get the notice for that one.
No, we'll make sure they get notices too.
Yeah, and they did, the storage unit did cut down the backs of the trees, they did. I kept the buffer, there's a buffer behind me to them, but I can't do anything about what the storage unit did.
So based on the conceptual plans that you've provided, and I know that those are the plans that you'll likely be moving forward with as you go for site plan approval. I understand we are not a site plan approval facility, but can you give me an idea of what potential screening would be for that outside area?
So my lot is, I want to say, the restaurant would be at the, you see when you drive by my property, how, some of you know it very well, it goes down, and then the neighboring lots behind, Mr. Greeky's property is on par with mine, but then you go up, and then there's a house right here where it goes up maybe, I don't know, 15 feet in elevation, and then it's still elevated, and then it's still elevated, so there's a big berm behind me. Is anybody, you see, with all the riprap slope? So that's their grade. I'm not building up my grade, I'm gonna keep it. I mean, it will be a two-story building, but the restaurant will be on the first floor. And then the way we're building it is we're trying to keep the restaurant closer to 114, because where's the traffic? 114 is where the traffic and the noise is, and the light, if you will. So we're trying to do that. And the restaurant is obviously in front of the building. So, you know, how close are we to those neighbors? I mean, we're close because we're on the side. They abut us. They're all on the business zone and they abut us. As far as screening goes, you know, they're up on a berm. I mean, we'll end up probably putting something up there. Exactly what, I don't know. But there's.
Well, that's not us to decide, it just,
But I think,
you're
Lance, I
aware
have
of their
no,
concern.
you know me, I have no issue answering any questions you may have. I mean, it's,
No, that's
and there's no intent, especially from me, to have any music outside that building.
Okay. Board, have any other questions?
No.
Do I have a motion?
So,
Oh.
the only thing I'd ask is, again, we are not the site plan approval. Is there a different location on the footprint where the small outdoor area could be?
We haven't really even investigated it sufficiently. You know, it's possible, but again, that outdoor area is only going to probably be used in the daytime. Nobody uses them at night. The nighttime use of outdoor spaces historically in Middleton, I mean, we live near Richardson's Farm. The flies, the mosquitoes, it's not amenable.
Would there be a willingness to restrict the time of the outdoor serving?
Until I really see what's going on, I can't answer the question. It's very difficult for us to answer the question.
And this is the difficulty of, normally, if you were moving into an existing space, you'd come in and say, here's the space, this is how we're gonna renovate it. And, I mean, you may go for site plan approval, and the Board of Appeals may say, this is all wrong, I want it moved.
They have to approve
And I
outdoor
understand that.
space.
And,
Yeah.
and
So what I would suggest is if we grant the license, condition it on not having outdoor, liquor, only interior. Because we don't know exactly, where or how that outdoor area would, develop. If it gets, an outdoor area gets approved that you might want to have some outdoor serving in, then we can always come back and the license can be amended if it's appropriate. But given the nebulous nature of the plans at this point, I would suggest that the liquor license be just indoors.
You want to make that in the form of a motion?
Sure, I just did.
All right, I have a motion to approve the liquor license, but with no outdoor service. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing no other further discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
All right.
And we'll work with you.
All right, our next agenda item is a vote to accept the deed for Lewis Drive as authorized pursuant to Article 26 of the 2019 Annual Town Meeting. Is anybody presenting this? Or?
I believe Jill is.
Good idea, Costa. That was a great idea. Shut those guys up real quick. She can always come back later.
And developer of the property known as Lewis Drive subdivision. It's actually come out quite well. I went down it the other day. It's really a beautiful subdivision. I think it worked out well. Mr. Sokolo's here this evening, who is the principal of Prime Cap. As you know, we did attend, or Mr. Sokolo did, attend the town meeting to get the roadway accepted by the town, and it was. I have the deed to convey the road as well as the easements to the town. Attached to it, I have the certificate from the town clerk regarding the article that showed that it passed and the town accepted. And at this point, I would ask, I did bring a copy of plans if the board wanted to see them. They've been signed by all parties necessary. And now this evening, what we would ask is that this board vote to execute the deed accepting the property from Mrs. Sokol.
All right. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Move to accept the deed.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right. Paul, we're going to take a 5-minute break while we sign this. All right, we'll call that, we've just signed the deed, so we'll go on to our next item, which is a vote to approve the annual appointments of board and committee members and municipal officials.
There is an updated list in front of you, color-coded. The one that was in the packet, we had still been waiting for a few people, so we've updated that. We're still waiting for just a couple of people.
Okay,
And we can make those, if those people want to be reappointed, we can add them at the next meeting.
all right, so we have, I'll just read the list and then we'll have a motion at the end. For Board of Appeals alternate, we have Craig Hotwell and Ian LeBlanc Snyder. Board of Health, Matthew Greenfield. Council on Aging, Carol Carr. Jones Shea Desmond, Ellen Strobel. Wendy Terrick. For Cultural Council, Richard Gilman. For Historical Commission, Ann Cody and Pike Messenger. For Industrial Commercial Design, we have Chuck Kozlowski and Michael Watkin. For Municipal Tax Relief, we have Jeffrey Garber. For Planning Board, we have Anthony Di Gregorio. For Recreation Commission, we have Jessica Salazzo. For Scholarship Committee, we have Rodney Pendleton and Shirley Raynaud. And for Zoning Board of Appeals, for Nicholas Yeba. All with dates ranging from 2020 to 2022.
Anthony Di Gregorio Planning Board? That,
That's a joint appointment.
Yeah, that's
actually,
a joint
so that-
appointment.
That one we'll have to do jointly with the board.
And that's for as an alternate.
As an alternate.
As an
And that's
alternate.
it's only 1 year for the alternate.
Okay. With that modification, do I have a motion regarding that list?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve those names, except for the alternate planning board. That'll be a joint appointment with the expiration dates of June 30th with the year that is listed on this sheet.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. All right, we now have our municipal employee list. And we have Assistant Health Agents of Ron Beauregard and Leo Cormier to 2020. We have Scott Fitzpatrick as our Building Commissioner 2022. We have Stephen Melanson as the alternate Building Inspector to 2020. Mark Solowski for Plumbing and Gas to 2020. And then in the Police Department.
No,
Oh.
Mark Felikowski is
Okay.
the alternate Inspector of Wires
Alternate
for
Inspector Wyatt,
2020.
I'm sorry, to 2020. Peter Sekalausis as Plumbing and Gas Inspector, alternate 2020. We then, for the Police Department, we have David Arathuzik as a Sergeant to 2022, Matthew Armitage as a Sergeant 2022, James Bernard as a Patrol Officer 2022, Henry Bouchard the 6th, Patrol Officer 2022, Richard Cardinale as a Reserve Patrol Officer for 2022, Ronald Carpenter as a Sergeant for 2022, Charles Costigan as a Reserve Patrol Officer to 2019. He's retiring this year, correct?
Correct.
Is that appointment through his scheduled retirement date,
Yeah,
or,
it'd be beyond July.
so it's not June 30th,
Well,
2019?
statutorily, he can't
After a certain age.
work after
Yeah.
65.
Joseph Fidulo, Patrol Officer 2020. Mark Finer is a Reserve to 2022. John Griffith is a Reserve for 2022. Jose Hernandez is a Reserve for 2022. Leonardo Jorge is a Reserve for 2022. Richard Cassiotis, we have to have you
Yeah, I'm going to abstain.
abstain. So, the Police Department for 2022. Brian Kelly as a Patrol Officer 2022. Michael Lacoste as a Patrol Officer for 2022. Michael Lenahan as a Patrol Officer of the 222. Detective Adam Massini as a Patrol Officer of the 2022. Wade Marabito as a Reserve Officer of the 2022. Robert Marino as a Patrol Officer of the 2022. Thomas McCarlin as a Patrol Officer 2022. Richard Mendez as a Reserve Officer to 2020. Robert Peachy as a Patrol Officer 2022. Robert Smith as a Patrol Officer of the 2022. Melissa Witt as a Reserve Patrol Officer to 2022. We then have Sarah Wood as a Town Accountant to 2022. Gary Bent as a Veteran Service to 2022. Pastor Larry Shell as a Chaplain for 2022. And Rabbi Asher Boynstein to Chaplain for 2022. With Mr. Cassiotis abstaining from all Police Department appointments, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I approve those names as listed with the expiration dates in the form.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, and with one abstaining.
Before we move on, Andy, we used to get a listing of all employees and appointees and elected officials, with their expiration, terms. Does that document still exist?
I think we've automated it, so I think it is probably easier to compile and update now.
Right.
So
Can
if you'd
you-
like that.
Yes, please.
Okay, a couple of points, Mr. Chairman. First, for anybody who at home was listening us go through the list on the police department appointments, you'll notice that there is one that was not mentioned, and that's the upcoming retirement that we are having with,
Sergeant. Courier.
yes, Sergeant Bobby Currier, who's retiring, and a big thanks there. In addition, we had some individuals that had declined the ability to be reappointed, and a thank you to them for the service that they've provided to the town. Mr. Draper on Municipal Tax Relief Memorial Day Committee, Cheryl McCormick on the Planning Board, and Barbara Tilton on the Council on Aging. And I'd also ask if we could, to what Costa had asked for, if we could update on our website, if it's not already, what boards and commissions we have vacancies on, because this is the time of the year that we start identifying additional vacancies due to individuals either not being able to continue to serve during a reappointment or not responding on an interest in being reappointed.
Great. Anybody else? Anything? All right, if not, we'll move on to our next agenda item, is to review and approve the ambulance receivable abatement write-off for fiscal year 2016, totaling $123,888.31, and these would be for uncollectibles. Mr. Sheehan?
So this is something we do every year. We did 3 years' worth last year in order to come up to come current with our policy that was adopted in 2018. So this year we're doing just 2016. We do 3 years. Reach back 3 years for the write-offs. So you will notice that the percentage of the write-off or the receivable and the amount is a little higher than we are used to seeing.
Yeah, it's substantially higher.
Yeah, substantially higher. And there's a couple of reasons that that we can identify for that. One is there was an issue a couple of years ago, well, around 2015 and 16, where Blue Cross Blue Shield was going away from reimbursing the provider, and they were direct paying the patient, and then expecting the patient to pay the provider, whether it was a town or a private ambulance company.
Recipe for disaster.
Recipe for disaster, and now we're dining at that. We've got a big heap and helpful of that plate full of disaster. So, so I think that's a large part of it.
So
The other thing is just the sort of change in, well, two other things. Medical trend and the general cost of providing service continues to go up, and then transport's going up.
So, the contract we have with the vendor that provides this, when is that contract up for renewal?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to look at that.
And secondly, what other vendors are out there? So, I'm alarmed by 23% being the amount, and almost $24,000 out of a total of $546,000 that is billed. I think if this trend continues, we are going to be very quickly upside down in our ambulance service, where the revenue coming in has, for all intents and purposes, continued to allow us to stay relevant and timely on equipment, supplies, and otherwise. And this has been an ongoing issue. I mean, and I'd like us as a town to see if there are other potential options. And secondly, and you probably don't know this because not all of it would be available, but I mean, of the 123, almost 124,000, what I'd like to know is what is that average, is it an individual that we just can't find? Is it an individual that is refusing to pay? What ability do we have if that individual is an actual resident and taxpayer of the town?
Elderly, or et cetera.
Is it, what I don't have is any line of sight to this, other than once a year, we take a vote, and last time we did it was after many years not taking it. I'm not comfortable voting on this evening because it is a large amount, and I don't know that we have fully exhausted all the avenues. Now, I do know that, is there small claims court cases that have been tried? Are there frequent flyers? None of that I know, so I can't vote for this evening, and, this is significant dollars. Let's put it this way, what is the cost of a new ambulance?
$250.
We're looking at, looking at 50% of the cost of an ambulance.
I'm not going to disagree.
No, and I'm not saying that you're
this is a
nonchalantly
significant-
writing this off, but I just need line of sight
Yeah.
into what this means. And then secondly, I think we need to step back and take a look at a lot of the issues that revolve around the billing, the practices, and not the operations of it, because I think the operations are top-notch. It's the billing practices through the vendor, as well as understanding if we are getting our best value. I still am concerned that a large bulk of our activity happens back and forth with the jail, and I think we are way undervaluing what that cost is. And I will tell you that for purposes of looking at rates, the cost of healthcare to an inmate is comparable to Medicaid. And I will tell you what we're being paid on transport, both non-emergent and emergent, is nowhere near a Medicaid rate. If you look at the bundled rate we're getting, I think we need some assistance on this. So I'll leave it to the rest of the board members if you're comfortable voting on this evening, but I think we need to take a very long look at the billing practices, the collection practices, as well as our rates.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, to
Sure.
respond to a couple of Brian's comments. And again, by no means are we suggesting, Sarah or I, that, or the chief, that this should be just a
No, I'm not saying that either.
perfunctory write-off. This is a big number. There's really two billing companies in Massachusetts. There's Comstar, the company that we use, and another firm called Coastal. There was some consideration prior to my arrival here around 2014 or 15 of going with another out-of-state company. I don't remember how they ended up looking at that company. It was prior to me and obviously prior to Sarah being here. It was evaluated and the decision was made not to go in that direction, but so there's not a lot of options. The only two that I'm aware of are Coastal and Comstar.
The question I have is, so they give them up. In my mind, it's me. If you went to any law firm doing collection right now and said, I have $123,000 worth of collection and you get a third of it, they would jump on it.
It's what we do with the, with unpaid excise tax and others that get not every town, but handed over to the quote-unquote deputy collector, which is a private company that says, you've just given me $250,000 of uncollected. If we find it, we're gonna get X percentage of it.
So when Comstar issues a bill, if it doesn't get paid at 30 days after due date, they follow up. They do 3 cycles of that. If at any point there is payment made, so even if it's 70 days you make a payment, they start that triple cycle all over again. So there's a whole new 90-day cycle. If at the end of that 90 days there's no activity, whether there was no activity at the beginning or there was activity and then another payment activity and then another 90 days, at that point Comstar turns it over to a company called FRR, and FRR or FFR. They are the collection agency, and then they send out demand notices, and they try to chase these people down. Some of the folks, some of the payments are not collectible because the people died. Some of them they're lost. We're unable to track them down. They may not have coverage at all, and so they may just say, "I can't pay," and I can't pay, and that's the end of it. In terms of the jail, surprisingly, and I made the same assumption that you said, the jail seems to be a pretty reliable payer for the rates that are charged. They're not the deadbeats here.
No,
so.
I'm not saying that they're the part of the uncollectible,
Yeah.
but a substantial portion of our workload is to the jail, and then if you take out the 23% that aren't paying that are non-jail, you're looking at a much higher percentage of those that are paying are actual Essex County Correctional services. So that's, and I could have bitten into that sour taste much easier when the jail was actually honoring the agreement that we made with them, but this sheriff decided to no longer honor a signed agreement that we had with them, that we weren't going to go down the road and sue the jail or the sheriff, but that was the decision that he made. That's first. Secondly, I'm just not, I don't know what that collection process is. Is this go out, here's the collection company, are they being paid a percentage of what they find? Is the, I mean, I will tell you that in many cases, I'm not an attorney, but I will tell you, many cases, and not always, but a small claims court case, or at least sometimes cause somebody to make some sort of a payment. Because what's happening here is when these payments are not being made, who's subsidizing the cost? I'll tell you who's subsidizing the cost. Those that are making the payments, the insurance companies that are making the payments, and then ultimately in the end, as much as we use the ambulance fund, which is revenue for this, for a lot of our ambulance equipment, but let's not forget that our fire department is also funded by what? Tax dollars. So when these dollars aren't being paid, it's ultimately the taxpayer that's supplementing that. Right. So I'd ask that we, I need more than, and it's not that I'm not taking you in your word, Andy, or the chief at his word.
No, that's fine.
I need to understand exactly what's going on, and I'd like to see, are these frequent flyers? Are these an individual that, I'm not saying that we roll up in an auto accident and say, oh, no, sorry, we can't treat you because you owe us $350. But if these are frequent flyers, we've got to be able to find them some way, or look at small claims, because other people are paying the bill when they get it.
Right, so we can get whatever information you need, or try to get any kind of information you need. Sarah did give me some notes, and I'm looking at that. Of those transports with insurance, we collected better than 95.5%. The people without insurance, 80% unpaid.
But what is happening is, and this is the dichotomy of this, our uninsured rate in Massachusetts continues to drop. It has dropped again, but our uncollectible on this continues to rise. So there's a disconnect here. And again, just because somebody is uninsured does not mean that they don't have to pay a medical bill.
Right.
Because there's options here for those that aren't uninsured to become insured, whether it's through Medicaid expansion, whether it's through the Affordable Care Act, whether it's through risk share pool. There's a whole slew of options. And And my fear is if we write this off tonight, the first thing that's gonna happen is that $123,888.31, our ability to collect on that is gone forever.
No, because FFR continues to try to collect that.
I mean,
And if it comes in later, it still, it still goes in as general fund revenue.
by writing it off, it takes it off our books. It doesn't mean that we stop trying to collect.
Right.
Yeah,
It helps our free cash number to
Fi-
to run it off.
Financial institutions regularly write off, bad loans to clean up their books, but the effort to collect them
Yeah,
is
but we
ongoing.
don't so quickly write off,
Because we don't tell them.
no, but we don't write off debt so quickly for somebody that hasn't paid their personal property taxes or somebody, I mean, we do at some point, but I just feel that,
Is there a way to know who these entities are?
Absolutely.
Is there a way to filter that out? The
Who's
number's
not
big,
paying?
but I'd feel better for wherever, if it was someone in town, an
we
elderly
just cannot
person
see what
or-
the services were that were
Medic-
provided
for the
under
medical,
HIPAA, but
right.
we can absolutely see who is owed. And, I mean, I'd just like to see what the
All right, well,
what the process is.
What I would say is that FFR and Coastal, Comstar, they don't care if the town writes it off or not. This is something that benefits us to write it off. And they're gonna continue to try to collect because it's in their interest to try to collect.
Would
Do we
it
have
would it affect our financial position if we delayed it till the next meeting? Do we have any reporting between now and then?
I think it goes as a liability, and so it would reduce our free cash number by that amount.
Permanently, or can we adjust it in 3 weeks? I just want to know, is this something that's going to
Free cash.
affect us in the next 3 weeks?
Well, we close the books,
That's-
close the books on the 30th.
Okay, that's the answer.
And the last thing I'd ask is, can you also explore if there's the ability to use a additional collections agency? I mean, we're using an agency that is part of Comstar. We have no idea their success rate,
they're
what
on-
their agreement is, if they are a separately owned organization, what's the incentive there?
If they're not around, they're not going to go to Salem Court. If they're located in Worcester, they're not going to send somebody to do 6 cases in Salem Court. It's not cost effective, but. All right, why don't we vote on this with the understanding that Andy's going to provide that information to us, and that we're not going to drop this amount. But do I have a motion?
I move to approve the recommended write-off in ambulance receivables for FY 2016.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, it passes by a majority.
And we'll keep working on,
No, we want.
working on this
I think
because.
as a board, we'd like to see those. that
Yeah,
information,
absolutely.
too.
So if they're,
If anything, just to prove, see if these guys are really doing anything, or,
Yeah, yeah.
It's like anything. Some realtors come out and show your house. Some realtors put it on MLS and sit in their butt for the next 2 years.
Right.
So we want to see what kind of collection agency we're getting. Our next agenda item is a vote to establish a Veterans Donation Fund pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, to accept donations and gifts to support veterans.
So this one, Mr. Chairman, came to us from Gary Bent, our veterans agent, Veteran Services Officer. He often is contacted by people who want to make a donation that will be specific for veterans, to help out veterans. And we need a mechanism to be able to take those gifts. Otherwise, the money goes into the general fund. So this will be set up like a gift account. We can hold it aside. It doesn't become part of the general fund. That way, when, if Gary is holding a Veterans Appreciation Breakfast or something like that, he can use those funds for that or anything related to
So
veterans.
is that the only, is the Veteran Services Officer has total discretion over the use of funds in this account, or what's the control?
I Yes, he would, under section 53A, unless the board designated somebody else or a secondary custodian.
So would this be any different than when we get contributions from businesses and residents in town that, we've gotten contributions for businesses to support things at the police station, fire station. Obviously, we very regularly accept donations for the food bank, food pantry at the Council on Aging. Is it the same process?
Yeah,
or?
pretty similar to that. And so some towns have used it creatively as a way to collect mitigation funds for development purposes. So if you have a sidewalk fund, and I think that's the way ours is set up, it goes into a fund under section 53A. So it's fairly commonly used. It's not as common, I would say, as like a revolving fund.
Yeah, I would not want this to be a revolving fund.
No. So, and we're probably talking in the course of a year. I'd be surprised if it's $1,000 in a year.
And gifts over a certain amount have to be accepted by the board before they.
That's correct. Any gift over $500 has to be accepted by the board.
So, this will be a separate, accounted for account?
Yes.
And I assume with a separate, ledger item that will identify this. The only thing I'd ask is that, we be provided some type of process on how this will be expended.
The types of uses.
Yeah.
Kind of a policy for
It's
use
some
of
type
the
of
money.
policy. It doesn't have to be, to cover every what-if, but just to understand.
And one of the things that should be in that is, expenditures over X amount, maybe $100, have to also be signed off by the town administrator.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I have one question, sorry.
Oh, question.
And how is this represented in our budget process annually? Is that,
Won't really be, so when we do the budget in the winter, you won't really even see this.
okay, like the other ones you mentioned we had in? And two, is there some stipulation that we could say that, or would it be right to say that it's only used for, I don't want to assume that those donations are only used for Middleton residents, but can I expect that, or is that not?
Can't imagine a situation where it would be used for non-resident.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
We can specify that in the policy as well.
Great. Okay, now do I have a motion?
So,
Oh.
I move to establish the Veterans Donation Fund pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A. And before that, donations are accepted for that fund, the policy for that fund should be, written and accepted by this board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Our next agenda item is to discuss and vote to send the amended home rule petition regarding polling locations as recommended by the Senate Council. So I gather they changed what we put in, is that?
They did. They suggested some wording to neaten it up a little bit, to make it clear that this was specific only to Middleton. There was a potential interpretation that this could have applied statewide, and they didn't want our home rule petition.
Nobody
to be
wants us to be the boss of them?
That's right. We're in charge of 350 other communities. So I will say that Senator Tarr filed a companion piece to this, or a corollary to this, that would apply statewide. It was filed 2 years ago, not acted upon in the last session. He's refiled it in the current session. So it may end up being a statewide thing anyways, but we don't know how long that'll take.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to vote to send the amended home rule petition regarding polling locations as recommended by Senate Council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And our next agenda item is a review update on the appropriation articles for the fiscal year 12 to 15, including recommendations of appropriations to hold open or close to free cash, otherwise known as the Costa Printakis amendment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this came out of the, conversations that we've been having for a while about older appropriations that there doesn't seem to be a lot of activity in. So if you look at the colored version that we handed out tonight, I think it's the same as what was in the packet, but, so there's the orange ones, which are the ones that we're suggesting that we roll forward, carry forward, and then the green ones we've identified as being ready to, or will be closed out at the end of the,
So,
end of this
so what is
current
missing
fiscal
from this list is when these were originally approved, which fiscal year, unless I'm missing.
No, it's, yeah, for instance, Oakdale Cemetery Improvements, 5/18. So it's May of 18, Article 18.
Okay, I see it. Okay, thank you.
Now, and the white ones are ongoing.
Ongoing, correct.
Okay, one on the second page, under the DPW, the Emily Mayer Park improvements. You know, the update, you know, talks about, you know, the shade structure has been purchased and installed.
Correct.
There's other, you know, the other part of that article was the comfort station and landscaping. So I just didn't, given that, you know, the words on the update didn't mention that, I just don't want that to be forgotten.
Yeah, so we, the pricing is such that we probably won't be able to do all of it. We did the shade structure, the picnic tables, maybe, and I haven't been up there in a couple of weeks. Some landscaping and potentially some fencing is proposed to go in as well. But we can update that to
Yeah,
reflect.
at that time the article was approved, the estimate for the comfort station shelter and installation was $12,000. And we have
Yeah.
24.
We
I
have
think,
20,000 expended.
20,000, and most of that, most or all of that was on the shelter.
So, you know, if we have 24 left, we should be able to,
Yeah.
if the estimate from 2 or 3 years ago is still accurate.
And I will have to say, having gone by there so many times, I've never been up there, and we haven't not seen the heat yet. I've never seen that not in use. There's
Yeah.
families under that shade structure every time I've gone up there. It's nice to see something that you propose really work out.
I have one question on the, well, a couple, but first question on the bottom of page 1, the sander plow from May 18th, article number 18.
You need page 2.
Page 2. It says to come with truck listed above, but then it says object 580392. The truck listed above is from the prior year. There is no 580392 that is listed here. And what I'm trying to find out is what's the remaining $4,900.60 going to be used on? Because I will tell you, a sander and plow from something from fiscal year 18, is going to be a lot more than, I assume that was the 41,000 that was expended. So I don't understand why that's not closed out, because I assume the sander and plow has already been purchased in FY 19.
That I can't answer for you.
But he will.
And what is TS concrete pads?
Transfer station.
Thank you.
So where the roll-offs sit, those concrete pads needed to be replaced.
So, for the items that state, I understand on Oakdale, I surely didn't expect Kenny to be able to move that project to construction in the period of time that he's been here, although it sat under the previous director for years. What is the likelihood of timing on this? And my concern is with the Volk School, we may not even be looking at calendar year 2019. We're probably looking at best, spring of 2020.
Yeah, and, and that's one of the, and I don't mean this to be critical of Essex Tech or any other Volk school, and we haven't had Essex Tech do a project for us, I think since they've moved, since the consolidation in the new school. I can tell you with some experience that I had with another Volk school, they were very amenable to working with us and helping us with projects, but there's a lot of variables and a lot of moving parts that often resulted in pushing us out, whether it was, in the springtime, the seniors finish up earlier than the others, so you have a shorter window. You generally need upperclassmen in order to work on a lot of these projects because they have the knowledge and the experience to do it. If you have a small group in the masonry class, you may end up getting pushed out. If there is transition in instructors and teachers, that can play a role too. I can't, it would be disingenuous of me to say that I think it's going to happen in 2019.
No, I understand that. So if someone
I
could
also
get,
don't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
if someone could get to me of the 33,000 or a little less than 33,000 that has been expended to date, can somebody let me know what that has been expended on? Because there's absolutely no change to the front of that. And I'm trying to understand where 50% of those dollars went.
Yeah, I think, I'll have to look it up. I think the original appropriation was not just the wall. I think it had to do with the garage,
No, the garage was a separate appropriation.
and there was something else.
Tearing down the old garage,
Yeah,
I think, too.
I think that was part
I'm
of it.
almost positive that was a separate appropriation, because this is the one I pushed for, because
Yeah.
I thought after rates being raised there, that it was time to actually improve the entrance there, so it didn't look like you were found it by accident. But if I could see the, about 33,000, a little less than that, that's been expended, as well as, I thought that the separate appropriation of 15,000, I thought some of that was for the demo that you were talking about. That was for the removal, I thought.
Wasn't there to be some stonework, signage and everything on that wall in addition?
Yeah, so the front wall, the intent was to, well, and that's part of the challenge that I have is, I don't know if there were ever plans.
I remember seeing what
This.
they, concept.
It was a concept picture.
Concept
Concept.
picture.
I hope they weren't $30,000 plans.
I don't think so. I don't know that we've spent anything on plans, so, it's never been real clear to me what the overall purpose or the goal was of this, of the wall, the masonry, portion of the project. And then there was, for good reason, a decision to put the project on hold because we thought we were making progress on Maple Street.
Maple Street.
And we might be able to roll it into the Maple Street project or do it part and parcel with the Maple Street project, which we now know is further down the road, so.
No pun
I
intended.
know Kenny has, last I talked to Kenny about it, he hadn't seen any plans or found any plans, so we'll see if we can
Well,
piece together a
yeah,
little
I
bit of
assume
both.
Sarah has at least what has been charged against that. 'cause-
Yeah, we can certainly find that.
Yeah, that's confusing to me.
Yep.
And then lastly, the piece having to do, where did I see it? At, is it still on here? The old town hall piece? Yes, it is.
I think it's on the last page.
So there's about 12,000, 11,500 left. So what Are you proposing that this is gonna be on hold, or what are you proposing with the dollars that are left there?
The
Both
two
20
orange ones at the
Yeah, the
top?
22,000 and then the remaining 8,500.
We're gonna be, best case scenario, we're gonna be in that building for probably another 6 years. We're gonna have to do something to that building in order to at least keep it safe for the people that are using it. The front door certainly needs to be replaced. It would be good to have the second means of egress out, or actually be a third means of egress out the front, which would require the replacement of the steps. So we'd like to continue to have that funding available to be able to work on some of that. Probably scale it back a little bit, because we don't need to do, I don't think we need to do everything that was contemplated. But we will need to make sure that the building is secure and not further deteriorating.
Are we voting on this, or is this just informational?
Informational, unless there are things listed that you want to close out that we're not suggesting be closed out. The green ones we're closing out. There's no action on them. If there's any on the, any of the white ones or the orange ones that you would like us to close out, then it would be appropriate to vote on those. Anything with CPA funding, that's
They're not
really
on
up to
this
the
list, yeah.
Community Preservation
no, they
Committee to
are.
deal with.
The old town hall ones that we were just talking about are CPA money.
I didn't know it was all CPA. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
I'm glad to see the school's security money is now being expended after 2 years.
But our pal at the end of the hall will be out of business. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item. Excuse me. Is a vote to execute the amended solar agreement with Falchek Renewables to include battery storage solution for the project at 230 rear South Main Street.
My apologies for not giving you the heads up, Mr. Chairman. We're not ready for
Which
this.
I said we're going to bring on next meeting. I just was just doing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. All right, a vote to sign the 8th extension. That's on, right?
Yes.
To the offer of purchase between Corbo LLC and the town of Middleton.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, all those opposed? Hearing none? Passed unanimously. New business, well, obviously, this Saturday, it's gonna be the only sunny day this week. Don't forget about Chief Will's Day. And if you wanna volunteer, we're more than happy to help people. You can show up about 4:30. We'll find a job for you. But besides that, bring families, come on by. The fireworks are always spectacular at 9:15. So, just reminding everybody up at the, transfer station. Anybody else have any business? No?
We do have need for the executive session.
All right. And upcoming meetings, is everybody available on July 9th?
I am likely going to be out of town.
Okay, that's all.
See if I can
Any
look.
of those other dates conflict with anybody?
Let me look without making noise.
I'll be here.
Okay.
Good.
Then those days are good. All right, our last agenda item is motion to move to executive session under General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, acquisition, of value of real property where the chairman declares discussion in open session would have detrimental effect on the position of the town. And Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, with respect to the police union and collective bargaining. We will not be returning into open session. Could the clerk do a roll call vote?
Selectman Prentakis.
Yes.
Selectman Presta.
Yes.
Selectman Hooton.
Yes.
Selectman Cassiutis.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
All righty, we now go into executive session and stand adjourned.